Hua! Thank you guys for being here for another video. That's super fun. I'm gonna babble for a good while, and it takes me a while to complete the thought you're about to bear witness to. I'm willing to bet about 10 minutes, but I'm just totally guessing on that right now. I'm just talking about the decision-making matrix that went into making this video right now. Bear with it, and then at the end of that, we're going to move into talking about my plans to change the world. So I hope that you thoroughly enjoy that when the time comes. And for now, I hope that you enjoy the intro to this video. That also when the time comes, which is now after this intro to the video. So we get a few of those. If you love intros, man, what a great time for you. Thanks for watching. I think the reason that I'm nervous has to be because I've only made one of these before. And then you've got a little bit of the concerns about like, is this too many, too rapidly? But I have this specifically because every now and then there's things which are long to say, which deserve proper justice given to them. And I do actually have a specific intention for this, and it's going to take me a second to work into it. Shoot, hang on, give me a... So, this one comes to you also from the Chow Garden. And I'm gonna like worry about the framing for a little bit. I'm happy with it, but should it be like further away? Is this good? I don't know for sure. It is, I think, because look at how beautiful bouncing boy I am. But part of why I'm so nervous is because I've been drinking some coffee and then had my Rockstar, which helps focus down into one singular kind of thought section instead of the typical more scattered and what I think is a little bit more fun variations of thoughts, I suppose. And it's more fun bouncing around from subject to subject opposed to having one subject, this is what we're going to talk about. And caffeine has really helped me with having one thing I'm focusing on when I'm doing programming, which is what I was going to do today. And then I made a cute video about like how I'm putting off programming, and then that was kind of fun. And interestingly, the only time I really felt specific sense of whimsy, which is how I like to live my life lately, is the time that I was making that 8-minute video. It does track a little bit because, as I believe I said last video on this channel, December 27th, I think. But on that video, I made mention that my roommate was out of town, so this is prime VR territory. If I spend as much time as a kitty cat right now, there is no, especially like if this is the weekend, this is the time where I could be in VR for 16 hours and zero concerns, zero afraids of, like if the house is messy, I haven't done my chores, that's fine, they're my chores and I've got time, I can put those off for longer even, we're okay. No one's coming home, and even if someone was, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it would feel like a big deal because that's still something that I'm working through. It's hard enough being vulnerable just on the camera to you good people, the very select audience of this channel, which is exactly what I'm looking for right now. Because again, I had that moment where I would have wanted to talk with someone who cares in a genuine capacity about what I'm working on so that I could give them a genuine answer, because I am quite excited about what I'm working on, but it just happens to be a little bit too big for only me right now. So where the previous video was a little bit more meandering and a little bit more ambly, this one's going to be a lot more specific, and I don't know if that's going to be a good vibe or not. Usually, it's so interesting. The videos I've recorded when I've had caffeine and I'm more focused tend to be the less interesting ones to me, or at least they're the less interesting ones for me to rewatch. I don't know if that says more about me or the videos or about having had some caffeine or not. But I think we're gonna push through it anyway because also caffeine helps me feel whimsy considerably less. So in a strange way, and this is something that I do often, and I don't even know if it works out or not, but I am presently following through the sense of whimsy that I think I would be feeling if I was in tune with my whimsy. So, had I not have had caffeine and I was listening to what feels right, I would be in VR right now. I know this completely. And if it was my brain in charge of my actions, so get this, because this one's really interesting. And then we're going to move on to what the rest of the video is, but I like this thought a lot. If it was my brain deciding my own actions, I would go to a nearby bar that I thoroughly enjoy with my little phone programming setup, and I would probably take my XR glasses so I could have a computer monitor that's see through on my face, so I could program in full 1080p, and then possibly even be playing a fish tank or myself on the phone screen proper, which would be plugged into an external power bank. And then I could look up and see a college football game, an American football college game, because my team of choice is BYU, and they are playing in a bowl game. It's their final game of the year. And that is what I would be doing if I was in charge. If my brain made a plan, that would be my plan for the day, because that is such a good plan. That is an exceptional plan. Personally fulfilling. I like traveling and getting out of the house. I love people. I enjoy watching a good football game. I enjoy programming on the go. That is a golden plan. That's a good day. And I've already been having a good day up until this point, so I could just roll right on through. I did a couple chores, I did laundry. I could absolutely go and enjoy my evening in that way, get the programming done that I've been wanting to do, because I typically program better when I'm on the go. Something about the limitation of having to work with a small screen and a Bluetooth keyboard, and either it's the removal of distractions, which helps me focus on programming, or it's the added challenge of getting things done with a very limited set. Like, I am limited when I program on the go, and it's possible that that additional layer of challenge makes it more interesting than programming at home. In either case, I typically get more things done when I'm programming on the go, so there's like 6 things that would be going very well if I intellectually put together a plan of what I should do with the remainder of my day. What I have decided to do instead, I am doing this instead of going to the bar to watch that football game. And granted, I could still make the second half of the game if I wanted to. I could still go to the bar anyway and have the entire experience I just described. It would just not have the football game attached to it. The evening is still free, so I'm not deciding to do VR instead of the whole evening, but it would behoove me to do so because, again, this is prime VR territory. This is the best time possible to do VR because something happened, and I don't even know what it was, because the coloration, which we will get to more specifically a little bit later on, probably not this video, although maybe, but probably it'll be much, much later, because I do have black hair and white collar, which is extremely significant. You now get close look at the extreme significance. This is my model exactly as my artist, Sefu, envisioned it to be. And I had specifically said, Sefu, you're more of an artist than I am. I trust your judgment. And the first thing I did when I got this model after I said I trust your judgment is untrust his judgment and make changes on my own. When I did that, I accidentally made the texture qualities worse. So I went back to the original qualities, the best upload settings, what needed to be, and I am now the best version of what my artist envisioned, which I said specifically I would like to trust your vision, and I was deeply ungrateful for that, which feels bad. However, being in this model now feels more correct than anything ever previously really has. This is absolutely part of it. It came after, I don't even know 100% what the shift was, when it occurred. I could probably go back and figure it out a bit, but this is much more the hangout vibes. And when I have the white hair, I'm trying to present something more specific, which is what I've been trying to do. But as it turns out, that was all practice for something I don't need quite yet. We'll get to that, I promise. I just have to remember what I was talking about. The hair and collar is more of a genuine presentation. That's just a guy is talking to you in VR. And in conjunction with the hair. I don't think it's because of the hair, but the hair illustrates a change which did occur. And that change has more to do with, or has to do with, allowing myself to treat you, the audience of this exact video, as specifically wanting to be here for the genuine version of self I choose to express exactly on this channel, exactly in this video. I choose to treat you as a friend who wants specifically to hear my ideas, and I have a lot of ideas which have to do with the programming I would do at the bar, but I'm choosing to do this instead, which is interesting because, oh, goodness gracious, this one has been a long thought. I can't wait to be done with it. Goodness gracious. It's an interesting decision because of the caffeine that I've had. I do not specifically feel that sense of whimsy, which even earlier today had said, hey, being in VR feels so correct right now, you should be in VR. And I said no to that and made my intellectual plan. I'm going to clean up, I'm going to work on programming first and then do VR after. And after getting my head out of my butt and doing a few chores, and a few chores was really good for me for the next coming days. Like that was something I did have to do. Maybe not then, but it was important that I did it. Did that thing again where I heard a noise and I got distracted. It was the dryer. Part of my chores I was doing distracted me. I do not actively at present feel that sense of whimsy by which I use to guide most of my life. So all I'm going off of right now is kind of the intellectual, well then I'll just make my own plans. If I'm not feeling a sense of inspiration towards any of it, I'll just make a plan on my own and do that instead. Usually that serves me fantastically well. Or at least, I can put together plans I'm satisfied with, such as the one I stated moments ago, going to that football game at a bar. That's like 6 great stone, like, I'm killing birds with 1 stone. It's so good. That is such a good plan. However, I made the most curious intellectual decision not to enact a plan which on paper is so good. What I'm doing instead is following the sense of whimsy that I have confidence I would be feeling if I was more in tune with that sense of whimsy. But I'm operating completely blind. I intellectually made a decision I have no intellectual basis for because I feel like it's something that I would naturally be drawn to if I was in tune with that natural sense of whimsy or inspiration. So I'm doing something that does not make sense to me. I don't know why I'm here. I'm just choosing to be here because I'm willing to bet it would be the correct decision if I was open to that sense of inspiration. That ultimately is neither here nor there. What I just barely said has no bearing on this video at all. I'm going to be talking a whole lot about what I'm interested in, and some of what I don't love about watching my own videos when I've had caffeine before making the video is I know that my heart wasn't completely in it when I made that video because, again, I'm operating according to intellectually, this is what I would be doing, opposed to according to whimsy, what I'm doing, and I usually prefer living according to whimsy. Oh, goodness gracious. I said all of that, and I'm going in circles, so I'm going to quickly film the introduction to this video, because something else I love doing is just starting this video in the middle till I reach a good point to when it's time to move on to actually what the subject of the video is. And now that I know what we're about to talk about and kind of more about where it's going to go, now that I'm in the zone, I'm going to take a break and just film the intro real quick where I just basically explain what I just barely explained. So sorry for explaining it again. You've been such a good you've been such a good trooper. Look at you. Thank you for being a fan of Phineas, former whatever channel this is right now, because I'm still figuring that out too. It's a work in progress, you see. Except for the dates. The dates are staying. I love the date format. It's so good. It's the best decision I've had for a very long time. It's right up there with filming videos in the Chow Garden, which I'm doing again. This is the Heaven Chow Garden. because you can go to Chow Heaven or Chow Hell. It's called other things. But this is the good place. And if you're happy, like if you're nice enough to your chows, you go to the good place. And so this is the good place, and I chose this one just because this is where the best framing was for a new chow. And I kind of think I'm going to be filming videos in Sonic Adventure 2 Chow Garden until I've exhausted all of the background chows. It helps me feel better about being boring sometimes because that little man, he's so happy constantly. And then I feel better about sometimes not being happy because sometimes I'm a little drama llama, but he never is. So that's what we're doing now. We're very happy about all of that. So it's time to film the intro, and then I'll be back in a sec, and we'll just live our best lives from there. And what an excellent introduction it was. Now, as I said in the introduction that I just barely made, we are going to now begin talking about my plans to change the world. Before that, I want to frame this conversation in how it would have gone had this been a proper conversation, because I do recognize it's not a proper conversation. I'm going to step closer to the frame right now as I double check. I feel like the microphone's a little close to my mouth, so if the audio's bad, I'm going to feel bad. But we're just going to go for it. So I'm going to step closer to the camera, crouch down a little bit, and preface how this conversation would have begun if this was a proper conversation. I recognize this is not a proper conversation due to the nature of mass media, but I am about to change that, and you're about to hear about that in this video. Things are changing. I'm making a change. So that's going to happen, and I'm going to do the thing. So it's going to be great. So even earlier today in a because I like the YouTuber Campfire Harvest lately. He's the closest person I've found to a peer. Similar subscriber count, higher than me. He's been doing it a little longer than me, and his videos are better than mine. He tries. But I like this guy a lot. It just feels like there's similar vibes, and, thumbs up. I'm a fan of Campfire Harvest. And he did a premiere for his video, and inside of that premiere, I said something about having the place to myself, which also I did in the last video. But if someone had been astute, and we were hanging out, and we were having live happy times, and we were vibing, someone who's in tune with me, my projects, what's been going on, and someone like you who's interested in my plans and machinations, and I would be interested in yours also in this world, but right now it's a one-sided thing, which will not always be the case. You could have said, oh, hey, Phineas, you said you were excited about having the place to yourself, and I also know that you have a lot of ambitions and dreams and you do a lot of strange things. What kind of stuff do you have planned for this weekend? You've been working a whole lot and you've got the place to yourself. Is there anything special going on? That is something that you might have been able to say if the situation had called for it. So I'm going to move on as though that is what happened. And I'll be like, wow, thanks so much for asking. That's so super cool. Yeah, I do got some plans, and in fact, they're pretty big. So that's what we're doing, what I'm doing. So thank you for being here for this video. You are the cream of the crop. The cream of my crop, and it's not even my crop. But I'm making this video for you, and someday I would like to be able to make these videos on stream, doing it live, but this is the correct vibe for right now, and this is the vibe I think I most thoroughly enjoy of any of the YouTube things I've been working on, even though I feel like these are not properly consume worthy typically. They're clickable, like we talked about in the last video, but this is what we're doing and I love this, so thanks for being here. And I'm going to now move on as though you had asked, known enough to be able to ask what's up, because I will tell you what's up. I am going to change the world very soon, and I feel like talking about that for a little bit, and this is the platform that I'm going to use to do that. So here we go. Now, I recognize it is grand language indeed that I have been using lately. I would like to once again remind us about how I talked in last video about change the world. I can move a rock, and technically change the world. So let's not get too excited about what I'm saying. I'm dropping the diminishing of my language, save to explain just now that I am aware, and I would like you to be aware, that I could be using all of the words I'm about to say in the sense of moving a rock, change the world in the smallest of ways, but I am about to change the world. Let's talk a little bit more about that. This one's going to be this one will be a little bit hard to do. I'm going to do it anyway, and it probably won't even be as hard as I think it's going to be, because no one's asked me about all of this before. And I'm going to tell you about all of it as though you wanted to know about it and you knew enough to be able to ask. That's going to be a new thought exercise for me. I have such confidence that it will go well, and I'm excited about it, but it is strange. Some of the impetus, this is going to be a little interesting, is after I have changed the world, and people are like, wow, he changed the world, I think it'd be really funny if I could point them to this video and be like, yeah, I said I was going to. That just sounds like a lot of fun. And be like, oh wow, he knew exactly what was going on and he did it like 90% of the way or whatever. I just want that. So that's an angle to this video, and there might be like a few other angles to this video, which I hate to announce, but it's true. But pretty much the only angle is everything I've been talking about. So we're gonna keep talking about it. It's just gonna take me like a hot second, but hopefully I can like keep it rolling a little bit. So let's see how it goes. Because, okay, it's a little bit more conversational. I have to keep in mind the vibe. You asked, and I'm telling you because you're interested. So. We're going to start with the interactive fiction engine I've been building for several years. It is a new form of media. Interactive stories do exist. Twine exists, and there's another one, Scriber, maybe? I don't remember what the name of that one is exactly, but there's two good platforms. And the one I mentioned last, which I don't even think is called Scriber, it might be Scribier or something like that. It might not even be Scriber. Inker? Anyway, anyway, there's a few tools that tell interactive stories where you can write out your paragraph, you have branching pathways, and you can see where the pathways go. So what I seek to accomplish is not ultimately unique, but it is unique in a couple of really key ways. And the whole thing is built to assist in the uninterrupted flow of writing. And when you have to include a variable, if you have the knife, you get a new dialogue option. And you can do that right there while you're typing, and it's a very seamless thing to do. And usually you have to stop what you're doing and add in a variable, and I don't even think every system has variables quite like that. Maybe they do, but you have to set it up and then keep writing. And for me, as an author first, developer second, videographer third, building something to tell interactive stories from an absolutely uninterrupted authorship flow is vital. So important. And it works really well for someone with a really scattered brain structure, where if you're able to keep track of tons of moving pieces all at the same time, then you can go ahead and write down all of these interactive pieces. The big draw is basically what amounts to an advanced ad-lib system, where if you're the main character, or say you have a love interest, your love interest's species can change. And when you first run into them, the game can ask like, oh, is he a cat? Is he a dog? And then you could ask what color of fur is he in addition. Small little ways to customize your story. And this can be used both for a trigger system, where you only get certain dialogue options if your love interest is a cat. For instance, like you have to go to the black market for some reason, and it became an action novel, and the bouncer only likes cats, and you are not a cat. But if your boyfriend is a cat, then he lets you guys in, and the story changes based on that unique option. And a lot of it is just text that changes in the narrative itself. Simple little ways about like, oh hey, or his blue fur tickles you as he brushes past on his way to the knife or something. Like whatever the thing is. But when you're just reading a book, and it would be far more like a book than a game, it's a book that changes based on your decisions. Oh, that was easier to write, so I could make them faster, but they would be absolutely unique in that I never had to break the mentality of being an author. To make one of these stories with any of the existing tools, you have to be an author and kind of a programmer. And a lot of them are built so you don't have to ever program a whole bunch. You just have to write and then also make your triggers, and it's not a seamless activity. So if you got really good at telling those types of stories, you have to be really good at that kind of skill set. So it's going to produce different types of stories because they're written in a different way, opposed to a story that was written completely from the author lens. So you get a different output that currently is not possible to make. In this way alone, I am making an absolutely unique thing. It does not exist yet. And I'm really confident in my abilities as an author. I've been an author for a very long time. I have a published book. I love writing. I know how I write, my process of writing. I know my emotional states to be able to convey them pretty well in words, which is feedback I've received for a really long time. My mission statement for being an author was to have someone come for the porn, because I write a lot of adult fiction. I just like those stories, and I think sexual inclinations is something that can bring all humans together. And through this bind, you can tell all sorts of human stories because sex can be messy and emotions and relationships can be challenged, and it can ultimately be a sexy story which binds everyone together. We all understand sexual inclinations, but when you tell a really human story too, that fascinates me. And that's what I specialize in. And I wanted someone to say that they came for the porn but stayed for the characters, is what my goal was. And I achieved that. Someone commented that exact thing to me, and I hadn't said that out loud. It wasn't in a blog post somewhere. They said that because they wanted to. They believed in it, that they came for the porn and stayed for the characters. I had achieved my ultimate goal for writing. That was the skill level I wanted, and I did that. And I wanted to learn how to sit down, write a story I'm happy with, upload it. It takes minimal time to get something I'm really happy with. I learned how to do that too. That is, by the way, a mentality I took into my video craft, where I can make a video I'm pretty happy with. Let's go, baby. Either no editing and what it looks like to have a video that has no edits that I'm really proud of, or minimal edits. And learning all of this stuff about video craft is what I've been doing as a loose, for instance, with my white hair. And now that I'm completely satisfied with that level of skill I've gotten over the past half of a year, it's time to have my black hair and start doing this for real. That's my approach to pretty much all of my creative endeavors lately, and we are about ready to table that idea. Safe to say that ever since I achieved that initial objective with writing, someone came for the porn and stayed for the characters, that grew into the idea that someone came for the gimmick but stayed for me. I didn't quite know what that meant, but now I can see there's a few ways that that could go. First of all, they came for VTubing furry and stayed for me, because aside from being a furry, there's not a whole lot of that furry that happens, which is the chief thing I think that sets me apart from other furry VTubers. And it's not like they're always like furry, 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 furry either, but there does seem to be more of that connotation to it. And even if they're not that, then they're still certainly not as human as I would strive to be and do strive to be, which is really dick of me to say that, and I am probably hopefully wrong, but it's hard to impossible to drop the human shell that we walk around in every day. And when you're in VR or not, you're still going to have that shell that you put on to interact with all of the other people. So, best case scenario, all of the other furry VTubers, one of the ones that I like a lot is Mugbug. He just seems to vibe. And it's similar to Campfire Harvest, he just seems to vibe. Mugbug, though, of all of the streamers, he and Faraya are the two that I really like because they seem to be just the most genuinely themselves. Just also, they happen to be a VTubing furry. But that is. Anyway, I think actually I need to take all of that back because I don't actually know, and I don't know any of these people. I hardly talk to any furries at all, and I certainly never talk to any in VR for many reasons. I just use this as a filming application, more or less. I've forgotten where I was. One sec. I remember now. You asked me about my plans to because I'm gonna change the world, and you're like, "What's that about?" And then I completely lost my train of thought. Not completely. One of the ways it could be possible, aside from being a VTubing furry, which could be a gimmick, because I talk about really ordinary things. I just happen to be a furry. Not ordinary. To me, they're ordinary, but they happen to be extreme and lofty and odd. I will not argue that. But that's what I talk about, and I'm a furry. So that could be a gimmick for the expression of really strange ideas. More likely, though, could be the gimmick of this interactive fiction engine that I've been building for a long time, which I did specifically to facilitate telling stories in powerful and unique ways that no one has ever done before, one of a kind, brand new, does not exist yet, from the flow of uninterrupted writing, which is how I'm going to be able to make one of these swiftly and master that particular type of writing style faster because I crafted it specifically for my brain. I came up with the idea, I made it by hand. No one taught me programming. I taught myself programming to achieve this exact end, which, if all goes according to plan, I'm putting into production, if not this tomorrow, then within the next handful of days while my roommate's still gone, because that's the premier territory to work on streaming and to be in VR. I don't know why this thought is taking so long to get out. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Goodness gracious. Some of what I want to be able to do when live streaming, which is on the table, it's still on the way, is this vibe. Just very casually speaking with an audience in using subject matter which is more plain to me, and the types of conversations that even Mugbug does not typically have, although they were discussing once AI, which is a pretty, real topic and more in depth than just what some of the other streamers are talk about, which is just a lot more fluff, which isn't bad. It is my second monitor content, just not this second monitor content. I have absolutely lost myself. Gosh, the foibles of a little bit of caffeine. I swear to you. Tell me your secrets. Oh, Chow. My plans to change the world. Gosh, it feels like I'm talking about myself too much. But you asked. You asked. I want to quit this video too. Is that part of it? Is that part of the video? It has to be part of the video because I started. We're this deep. Gosh, and if this was a okay. The thought experiment begins to fall apart, but I'm going back to it. So we're taking a break from everything I've said so far, and we're talking more about this idea that you and I have chosen to be together, which is the operational theory behind this entire channel. So if this was a real world, I just had a glitch. Are we good? Hopefully we're good. If this was a real world setting, which I would like to pretend that it is. Am I good? Yeah? I think so. Okay, I just had a glitch and I'm terrified. If this was a real world setting and I was expressing this kind of doubt, concern, I lost myself, ideally, you would take a turn of having input for what I've said so far and how it relates to yourself in a certain way. Either because I achieved a fantastic creative ambition, like my goal. I completed my mission statement, and it was the sort of thing that was going to be my mission statement for years. Through writing over and over until someone said that specific thing, I would have kept writing erotic stories, telling really emotional human things because that was something I wanted to achieve. I achieved it much earlier than I thought I was going to, and that was still after, um, I mean, not even a year of that particular channel. But that was after years and years of learning how to write. So I made a new persona and then achieved my objective uh, more swiftly than you would have thought. But it was years in the making. And then I had to move on to a new creative goal because I had accomplished one. So something you could say in a conversational context would be, wow, that was really cool, or here's kind of a similar instance. And if I was lost in what I was trying to say, then that's probably something I would prompt. So I'm going to actually go ahead and request that you pause the video, and this is going to be really strange. This is the first time I've ever made like a call to action. So I'm going to request in the form of conversation that you would pause the video and input. And what I prompt is any time that you have satisfied one of your own creative ambitions in this world and a little bit about like what that felt like or how the circumstance came about or even just that it took place, that would feel conversational to me. Or you could really just input based on whatever I've said so far, and I've lost what I'm saying, and it's going to springboard into something different. And I think this moment is already buying myself enough time for the background processes to kind of catch back up to speed. So I think we're doing better. But if you want to pause the video, and you don't have to play along, but I think it'd be cool if you did, and just input conversationally what you would put into this moment of a conversation, and then I'll take it back over in some way. But that sounds just, I want to see how that goes. So yes, if you want to play along, you don't have to, but I invite you to. I think it'd be super interesting. And now we're going to go back onto the video. Oh, goodness gracious. I want to touch one more time on how this is my entire, messed up my little rug. I built the engine in this way to facilitate my ultimate workflow because my workflow creatively is sit down, make something I'm happy with that requires minimal post work, upload it, and then we can move on with what's going on. That's how I love making things. So I built an interactive engine that tells stories in an absolutely unique way, which works based on I can just write it, it's out, very good, very seamless. There's not a seamless way to do what I seek to achieve. Part of this is it's going to be hard to impossible to understand which of the decisions you make in the story are going to be cosmetic, what color the fur is for your love interest, or which ones are going to actually shape the story, which could also be your love interest and the color of their fur, or it could be anything that you make, and the game will have a lot of different triggers and conditions, which will just shape the story in a really unique way. And it might be a little bit more like Undertale, but it's a book. And the book evolves in really natural but advanced ways. And the book remembers your choices, much different than having branching pathways, which is a small thinking mentality. What I'm deciding to do is a more advanced form of the choose your own adventure books back in the day. Back in the day, those did exist. They exist now, kind of, in what an interactive story is now, which does exist. But my books change in really small ways, where the basic ad libs of the descriptor changes based on what choices you've made, what color your fur is, or your love interest's fur, or whatever, all sorts of different changes. And you guys will see what that looks like in the coming days, ideally. So I've crafted this engine, which people could come for the gimmick and stay for me because Phineas Former is going to be around for a very long time. It is the release of this engine which is going to change the world, even in small ways change the world. We are now going to move on to the second point. We're tabling everything we've said so far. Thank you for bearing with me and ideally for finding me interesting, even though I do want to acknowledge this video is much more pointed and directed. And I liked the previous video, which was more what this channel is going to be. And now this video is more kind of a demonstration of how I am using this channel now and how I'm going to be using it moving forward. I talked about how I would like to have a friend who is interested in my wild schemes. I am now telling you one of my wild schemes that I supposed previously that you would be interested in. And I just recently had a call to action where I asked you to pause the video if you wanted to play along and add in your piece of conversation to that moment. Because I thought that sounded really interesting, and I really actually also implore you, if other people did the same thing, to read their comments and how they responded to that piece of conversation. I have no idea how that's going to go, if it's going to go, but it sounds interesting, so just that's something we can all look forward to see what happens when I do that. Now, we are tabling everything because separately, I have been extremely happy once or twice in my life. Distinct moments. I'm blocking the chow. Chow, I'm so sorry. You know what? No, it's my video. All right, just kidding. I'm just going to do this for like 2 seconds because I think it's funny, and then I'm going to reveal the chow behind me. Okay, I actually just did that. I felt bad. I felt bad for the little guy. What can I say? One of the earlier times I found myself being incredibly happy. I was a teenager of some sort. And on there were a few forums that I used that I was just part of. One of them was Gaia Online, which was a super cute forum. It was super 2000s or whatever it was, but I loved it for what it was. And I spent a lot of time in the roleplay section, and I've never been one much for roleplay. I occasionally have done like the erotic roleplay. But what I loved about roleplay is I ran a topic that was kind of like a dungeon master thing, where people would roleplay in my world and they would say something about like what their character does, and then I would respond with how the world responds. And there'd be a few people who are either shaping the world, and sometimes it was like one character that everyone's controlling, and then I'm like, well, this is what the first person responded with, so that's what's happening. Or other times it was multiple people with individual characters and the world would advance. And that one got a little bit more messy, but it was something I was trying out. But running those topics was one of the first times in my life I was excruciatingly happy, deeply satisfied. Everything was as it should be. I love telling stories. I love collaborating, and I love dealing with the communications between people. That is why I have hyper-spec'd into making videos, hyper-spec'd into telling a creative and story or performing an endeavor in a really flawless, to me, capacity, something I'm happy with from right away I made this and it's good and I can ship it out and be like, hey, look at the thing I did, look at me, what I chose to display, the emotional element I inhabited during writing, behold. I love that so very much. Doing that real time was electric. Because that's communicating directly with a handful of people who are with me in that odd endeavor as we made something which was pretty unique. People have roleplayed back and forth often, but to roleplay back and forth in more of a dungeon master and player context, where we're telling a story together and not just how our characters individually are advancing, but how the world is advancing. That was really cool concept to me. It was more of an evolution compared to how people normally roleplay, and it was a little bit advanced, and it was something to figure out. And it was how I was saying in the previous video, I think. I love systems which are kind of complex. I love, could this be possible? And then figuring it out and finding, like, oh, yes, it is possible. That was one of the first times I really performed that exercise in my head and found that it is delicious. And outside of those golden handful of months or whatever, I have never had that particular form of ultimate joy. I'm not even kidding. I loved that experience. That is some of my favorite stuff. I've tried recreating that. It hasn't really worked out, but I love it. And some of what I've sought to achieve over the past couple of years, several years, 5+ years, where I've been really unhappy during a lot of parts of life, the past 10 years have not been very great. And some of what I've done through that is I've remembered how I was extremely happy in the past. I loved that system. What would an equivalent system look like today? And I landed on an interactive fiction engine for a lot of reasons. Part of this is a separate system I have theorized for a long time, which is how to interact with chat real time. We're going to break away from chat. I had to bring up the word. We'll come back to the word, but now we're going to talk more conceptual, and we're actually going to go back 20, 30 years. Maybe 10, maybe 5. Back to the day of simple, honest radio call-ins. Long ago. You'd have reader segment. Reader writes in, and you'd have 30 minutes of the show where someone brings up a topic. If you guys have ever seen Frasier, this is like what the whole thing is. Someone calls in, and then Frasier talks about what they called in about, which is some psychiatric issue, and Frasier's like, here's what you have to do. And that sort of thing used to exist. Or in newspapers, there used to be little advice columns. Someone would write into the newspaper, and the advice columnist would give them advice based on what the reader wrote in with. Reader input, reader sends something in, and that information gets addressed. In the modern time, this ends up looking more like tweets. I really enjoy one particular radio broadcast from the BYU football games. The same one that I'm choosing not to go watch now because you're more important. And having that sense of value is amazing. Why are my arms feel out a little bit? Should I fix that? I'm going to fix that. Give me 1 second. That feels much better to me. Although, fun fact, you should never, ever do what I just barely did. If you got like a bad haircut, never point out, yeah, I got a haircut. He missed a spot in the back, but thank you. Because probably people didn't notice the spot in the back. No one is really noticing other people. So if you're really insecure about something, shut up about it. Don't talk about it. Probably, ideally, but probably, nobody has noticed because no one is really noticing any of the people around them, because how else could everyone feel super lonely all of the time? So don't bring up, like how I just did. Never do that. Ever, ever, ever. Never say, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth today. Sorry if my breath. Just don't. They might not have noticed. So just that is now something that you know. And now I have to remember where I was. This is way more arduous than I think that it should be. That's the caffeine thing. But also this is generally a hard thought to get out because no one has ever asked me before what the plan is. No one asks. No one has ever asked. Ever. Ever. In my previous life, about 2 years ago, before I moved away from, the people that I was with, the relationship that I was in, because I had surrounded myself with a lot of really unsupportive people, quite unwittingly. And that was the period of time where, like, dreams would be used against you, so I stopped expressing my dreams. And I haven't surrounded myself with anyone, really. Close family members, yes, but even then it wasn't what your dreams are, because that isn't the sort of conversation that people have. And I didn't foster those conversations either because I was still learning how to have them, which is what YouTube has been all about, really. So thanks for bearing with me as I live, happening right now, learn how to express this thought because I've never expressed it in its fullness, ever. And when I've expressed it in pieces, it has historically not been well received. On occasion, individual pieces do get well received, and people have been like, oh wow, I think you're onto something. And I'm still like, baby, you have no idea. I'm onto more than that because the things I'm onto in small ways stack together. I'm trying to explain some of that to you now. Thank you so much for bearing with me. You guys are so freaking cool. Now, oh, goodness gracious. What I'm trying to say about doing that interactive fiction live, more or less, on the forums that I was talking about a long time ago, it was so much fun, and I was activated. Is a new frame or a new phrase that I like a lot. All the parts of my brain were going. I was super happy. We had to communicate. So when they're saying something, I have to kind of read into not just what they said, but also the spirit of what they said and the types of language they used to figure out. Stop. Stop. Okay. Stop. Okay. To figure out what sort of response they're looking for based on if I picked up sarcasm or shame in what they said, then I can say, like, oh, the world responds with shame and kind of shape things together emotionally as well as physically. So that required a lot of activity in my brain, and I overthink things sometimes. Once. I did that once. Maybe twice. Have I done that? And no more times than once or twice have I overthought things. And during that time, I was thinking, but I was using all of my overthink for other things, for writing collaboratively. It wasn't my overthink, it was our overthink, because I had a grander system to apply all of my brain towards. And the entirety of my brain was occupied. In addition, I have a lot of creative energies, and those were all occupied. My brain was really occupied, and I had to use creative juices to satisfy the conditions it was told to meet. And so I was also meeting a lot of emotional conditions because I put my emotions into the art that I make. So that's a full activation stack. And I love that. I love the phrase activated too, generally. The games I like the most, I like a lot of strategy games because you have to be activated in order to pull off those rule sets and those complicated mechanics. And you have to be really engaged, is what I mean. So that was one of the few times I was deeply engaged in my life and emotionally engaged. Not just within myself, emotionally engaged, and not just I'm making a video that has emotional content or I'm making a story that's emotional that someone can then say, hey, I came for the porn but stayed for your emotional characters. Because that's ultimately being emotional on myself or by myself. And whether it's received well or not is kind of beside the point. If I make a piece of art, it leaves me, and I believe that books do not belong to their authors. It's received in a certain way, and I have nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. Because people receive it in the way that they're going to receive it. Big believer in that. So I can be emotional with myself and make something, but that's not being emotional with an audience. The most I could do is they emotionally received an emotional piece of work I did, and then I can respond with an additional emotional piece of work. With videos, I theorize it to be possible. It would just require a specifically in tune audience who knows how to react and respond and what's expected from a video if I express something that's emotional and there's any manner of an emotional response, then you can go the back and forth. And I think that would be a really cool system that I would seek to cultivate as Phineas Former moves onward and evolves into what he and it is going to be, and there's big things on the way. I'm trying to explain some of them now. What a thought this is. Goodness. We're just going to take a second. I'm not going to edit this part. We're just going to take a second. Look at the chow if you get bored. It's another part where you would probably chime in, and this would be a long conversation for all of us, but it would be a fun one. It'd be one of the conversations that you are having for hours and hours, and the time flew by. And I've had a lot of conversations with my very best friend in the whole world that we would progress closer to the front door, and then we would talk at the front door for 30 minutes to an hour, and then we would open the door, but then I would be outside and we're still talking because you don't want to stop talking. So we would have one of those conversations right now if we could. We can't. So I'll just like be quiet and think about what I'm trying to say. And then you be quiet too and do whatever you're going to do when you're quiet. And maybe you'll even look at the chow while you're quiet. So we're going to do that for a second. In older times with radio shows, you might have that audience interaction element. Viewers write in, you talk about it. I really enjoy or have enjoyed the broadcast VORW, uh, voice of the report of the week, which is Review Bra, famously of the your something has disappointed me and my day is ruined. I am immeasurably disappointed and my day is ruined. Something like that. He reviews food a lot of the time, and McDonald's will have a new item, and he's like, we're going to review the McDonald's item, and it's really great, wholehearted. He's been doing it forever. I love this guy. And once a week, he would do a shortwave radio broadcast of all things, the voice of the report of the week. And he would have viewer sections where viewers would write in, and he pays quick respect to that and responds. It was a great little segment of the show. I loved it so much, and I love that interacting with your audience in kind of a genuine way. I think it's really cool, and I think it's really important to do. Because I don't just want to make something that's mine. That's fine. But I don't want to just go back and look at my own stories. And I really love, and it's kind of dangerous how much I love YouTube comments. And if I make a video that gets lots of comments, that feels so stinking good. So I just want to make videos that have lots more comments on them. So that feels dangerous because then I'm trying to craft certain types of videos opposed to crafting what's in my heart. But also, it's still the back and forth. It's not quite live. How do you handle that? I think I have a way. And I theorized this quite some time ago. When I started getting into streaming and have a hard time keeping track of chat, and I've never had more than 20 people on stream at a time, or maybe 30, and it's because I got raided during a day that I wasn't even feeling very emotionally intact. So it was an odd time, and we handled it with grace, but it's hard to keep track of chat, especially because I'm a wordy boy. So if I'm talking, and then I'm done with a 20-minute diatribe, then I look back and I'm like, whoa, what's chat up to? I can't keep track of chat. That's monolithic. Some people have messages which are meaningful. Other people have messages which are drivel. You have to go through the drivel to find the meaningful messages. In the meantime, you're not able to entertain your audience. And that's the nature of streaming as people have done it. No one has a tool to really keep up with chat in a more advanced way. TTS exists, which can help. Highlighted messages can help. Doing subscriber only mode, that can help. But then you're alienating people who haven't subscribed. And it's also kind of a small thinking mentality. I feel like there's a better way. I've known that for a long time. There must be a better way. So I theorized and put together the basic elements for what this is. A solution, an actual solution to this problem, which actually exists for how I want to stream, which is the second thing that no one has ever done before. I told you about one already, this interactive fiction engine. That doesn't exist yet. It doesn't, it's not yet a thing. It's going to exist. I'm building it. It does not yet exist. This is the other thing which also does not exist. Not a joke. It doesn't exist yet. What I propose is a separate application which I've started to build, and I have the bones of, which will organize chat into 4 basic categories. I made a video about this a while ago. I don't think I expressed the idea quite specifically. I brought it up for about 10 minutes of that video, and I didn't describe how I was going to do it. I just brought up like, wow, this would be a cool idea, without actually saying that I'm working on the idea, which I have been for quite a while now. But I'm implementing it. This is one of the things I want to do by the end of the year, which is 5 days away or something. Like, this is happening. I'm making it. I'm doing this. And it would organize chat into 4 different categories, which chat would have selected. And it would be cat, dog, dragon, fish. And it would only track people who enrolled. So in chat, you would say like !enroll dragon, or something along those lines. Or maybe it would be a chat redeem that costs 1 point. I don't know. I haven't figured out the specifics of it yet. So it's only going to accept people who have decided to play along, and it's hard to engage. And any amount of engagement is going to draw certain people away from playing in their system. So just that one extra tiny step will start to, like, it's only going to bring in people who actively want to be there and actively want to play along. And that filtration system is going to be very important. And there'd probably be a 5th section for all of the other general chat messages, because that's also important to keep track of. But anyone who is enrolled in the system will, when they send a chat message, go to one of these 4 distinct little chat boxes that I have made. It works in a janky way. I don't want to talk about how it works, because anyone who's a programmer will be like, oh, there's an easier way. And it's like, okay, great. Do you want to program it for me? Because I'm a novice still. I still don't know what I'm doing. So I have to do it. So I'm hesitant right now to talk more about how it works. And it's rudimentary, but it works. And that's the important thing. And what this would achieve is, when I do come back to chat, I could see at a glance 4 windows, who's been saying what the big messages are. You scan it right away, and there would be timestamps to it. So you'd be able to know 10 minutes ago, what was I generally talking about? I haven't looked at chat for a while. And you could see all the messages that were about 10 minutes ago, what they're saying. And you could also have other tabs for keywords. So within the past 10 minutes, these are all the big keywords, so you know what people were talking about. So at the end of my segment of mass media broadcasting, I could take an immediate glance and see, in the past 10 minutes, people love the word, like these words. So you know what people are talking about, so you know where to continue on to, both to keep engagement with an audience, but to craft a conversation live. And you'd be able to tell these categories, so you could see what the dragons are up to, or what the fish think about an idea. But that subdivision of chat lets you call out conversation pieces in different ways. Earlier, for instance, when I supposed that you might pause the video to make a response, if this was a live endeavor and I have had my little chat window implemented, I could have said, fish. Is there an experience you have had where you've also met that success condition? And what was that like? And I could go to dragons and say, is there an artist who you also came for the porn and stayed for the characters? Have you had a similar experience kind of like that? So anyone who's in their individual groups has a specific call to action, how they can interact with the chat, because I've asked specific groups what the question is for that group. I can go back and talk about the dragons, and here's what the dragon said about the question only for the dragons, as all of the other boxes of people are also responding. So I can go, here's one, here's the other, which serves a few purposes. As a presenter, that's infinite content. I would have up to 4 categories to respond to and to talk about and to talk with. I bounce between all of them, and then I could go to the next one and keep rolling speech. And if my speech is reasonably engaging, then you have an audience that's reasonably engaged for the duration. But even if we take out that angle, and I think that angle's kind of gross. I don't love operating with a lot of angles. To me, it feels disgenuine. It is an angle that does exist, and I want to be upfront about that. It would help a lot with making a lot of content that would be very seamless for me to make, that could be deeply engaging, because everyone would have distinct calls to action of how they can interact with a live broadcaster. It would also serve the purpose that at a glimpse, like I mentioned a little earlier, I could see much more easily what 4 chat windows are up to, opposed to what one giant chat window is up to. You could break it down into more pieces and interact with it in different ways. On my end, people could set a custom alias. So if their username is Sephiroth Clouds 17900 or something, they could decide actually online they usually go by Campfire Harvest or whatever. So they could set alias as a certain name. So in chat, I could even say Campfire Harvest. I like that idea, but what if you made your bed every day instead of leaving it a mess? Because in my opinion, that's 30 seconds if you do a quick job, and your room is now 20% clean because your bed takes up a lot of space. No one else in the chat would know what the heck we were talking about, unless they happened to see Campfire Harvest's message, but it might not even be Campfire Harvest on my end. I might see their specific handle, so I would be addressing live on the air as a broadcaster, like a mass media broadcaster, one person who said one thing, and call them by name that they would know and respond to their message directly. Or I could say really easily, a commenter had a thing about their bed, we're going to talk about that, which is how people usually operate their mass media broadcasts. They would read out the whole thing online, respond to the whole message, and maybe start a conversation about that, which is a good way to maintain engagement with your audience, and it's a good way to have a lot of fodder for your streaming, to keep your flow going, whatever. What I propose is much more individual, and because it only draws in people who want to be there, because you have to specifically enroll in the system, which filters out people who are more casual. And there's other things you could do. On my end, I could put 5 stars next to the people who are here every stream, or something like that. But I could call out 5 individual people because I see them at a quick glance, because I've separated things out into a lot of different chat windows. So you might be a little bit bored if I spend 20 seconds talking to Campfire Harvest, but you might be a little bit more engaged if a minute later I get to your message specifically, quickly bring it up. So it's kind of like having 5 to 10 to however many individual conversations live. That's interesting to watch, in my opinion. I would watch that stream because you're following along with 5 to 10 distinct conversations, all the while the presenter is shaping a narrative as we move on from clean bedrooms to the ethic of cleaning in rapid fire to have 20% of the job done, and all you did was a minimal amount of work. That's kind of a work ethic right there, where you get the biggest benefit for the smallest amount of effort. And how could you do that in a life? Because if we can get on board with that principle working in the bedroom, you make your bed and your room is super clean, or much more clean than it would have been, and it didn't take much time at all. How does life benefit, or how could it benefit from that same system? All the while, I am helping shape that conversation with different chat windows that people have assigned themselves to, or even with distinct individual chatters. It's easy to have a one-on-one conversation with 1 or 2 people at a time, But when you get 10 to 100, and I've never had more than 30 people in chat at a time, it's harder to keep up with what that one person was saying, and having one-on-one conversations gets much more difficult. With my proposed system, I would be able to, in my position as a mass media broadcaster, talk with multiple people live seamlessly. That just sounds interesting. And my little mad scientist version, my little head, that's interesting, and no one is doing that. That does not exist yet. There is not a way to do that yet. I could do that. I am doing that. I have that. I built the system rudimentarily. It works. Not yet. But I have proven all of the pieces. A chatbot can write to a text file. My Python program can read a text file. So the chat program will write to the file. The Python program will read from that same file and update the data accordingly. It's messy. It's not the best solution. If I knew C#, I could do this so much better. I just don't. So I'm making a hacky solution that works for me, and I wasn't even going to tell you how it works, but now I've told you how it works. And it'll be messy, but I'm not a programmer by trade. I'm an author first, programmer second, videographer third. What you see now is the lowest stack. I'm the worst at this, sort of. That's not true, because programming is more of an intellectual endeavor, and I love these because intellectually I know how to put together an emotional presentation and be pretty satisfied with it. I don't know if I'll be satisfied with this video by the end of it, because this is all a lot of logistics that I already know. I'm just talking to someone who asked me about this, although at this point it's so technical, I don't know if you would have asked about this anyway. But these are some of my ideas. Interacting with chat in a brand new, unique way, so I can talk with many people all at once, either by group or individually, or all at once by talking about tag systems and finding out generally what these people have been saying if it's all just one chat. So many ways to interact with a mass of people in the form of mass media communications. I have now more or less completely described one system that does not exist yet, which I have built. More or less. Also, earlier in the video, I talked about a completely different system I have built for telling interactive fiction that adapts and changes and grows dynamically based on the decisions that you, the reader, has made, written in a seamless capacity. So I'm not sitting and here's what a variable is, and then you have to make a new thing. I'm just writing, unbroken, and I'm making something that's interactive and really cool. Let's combine two things which are distinct thoughts. Neither of them anybody has done before. None of these exist. Let's put them together just to see what happens, because I'm curious if it's possible. Follow along with me and we'll see if we can get there together. While I am broadcasting live, I am talking with a live audience, which is broken up into groups, and we're just kind of hanging out. If, on stream, I have decided to write an interactive story of the type that no one has made yet, that's already inherently interesting because no one's made it yet. So it's like, what's this guy doing? Because it's interactive, I can say, dragons. Put together some colors, and the top 3 are going to be the options for your love interest. What do you guys think? Fish. Give me 3 species, and that's going to be your love interest. Cats. Something's about to go wrong. Give me some stuff that goes wrong. And dogs. Something will go wrong, but there's kind of an ambition that you are trying to go for. And like the main character, there's something he wants. So something will go wrong, and he still wants something. He's going to be sad that this thing went wrong. What was it he wanted that went wrong? And then I can go back and see what the other groups have thinking about what their chore was. When we have all of that information, I go back to writing live this unbroken narrative, and everyone on stream sees the story as it's being crafted, but it's a little bit visually interesting because when I enter a variable, immediately pops up a different window about how we're filling in all of these gaps. And then the story continues, and it's just seamless because I'm keeping track of lots of things in my head because I'm really good at doing that. That activates me. I love doing that. So I'm doing something I love, which visually looks interesting. Everybody gets to play along because I'm calling out specific calls to action. Hey guys, what do you think about this, that? Everyone has chores. We're building it out together. At the end of this experience where I have crafted something live, I would theoretically be able to upload it immediately, and people would be able to read the output of the live stream of the story that we all crafted live. The interactive fiction which does not exist yet. There would be one stop for getting the types of stories I make. It would be me. There would be one stop for the kind of interactive stream I propose. It would be me. I want to stay for I came for the gimmick and stayed for Phineas Former because at this point I have multiple YouTube channels where if people like what I've done, they could investigate me and be like, oh wow, he makes odd videos, that I still haven't made all of the types of videos I want to make. And there's this channel, which is long, drawn out, specific pieces of content titled Dates. So if people really like me, there will be a lot of me. That is, generally speaking, the ecosystem of Phineas Former. Or, if people really like my videos, like if this somehow is the only version of my ecosystem that you have seen or that you enjoy, if you exist, you're super duper cool. What? Hi. Then there would be so many other avenues for you to explore, a different channel with different styles of video. I have other plans for live broadcasts besides only my story crafting. I thought story crafting would come later, but as it turns out, the next stage of video work, where I'm going to be having the white hair and making more specifically engaging content, there's an idea for programming that I have, and that would be a little bit more like Thursdays at 9 o'clock or something. There's Phineas Former doing his live whatever, and it would be a 1 hour programmed block of content, like a live show that would have different skits or segments, and then maybe a guest now and then, and it would be a variety show, and it would be planned out, not just what you typically see from a stream. Someone's playing a game, and they're live, and they can be interacted with, but this is a broadcast. This is a live broadcast, a TV. This is a show. This is a live show that's an hour long every Thursday, and it has gags and planning to it, and that's what I want to do ultimately. And it would have different characters played by me initially, and it would just be a ton of fun. And that's something I've been trying to push towards till I realized my power level is too small. That's the sort of thing that would be aided greatly with collaboration, and I've tried reaching out to people and no one's been like, yes, this man is no one, I will collaborate with him, which is too bad, but I suppose understandable. So I'm done reaching out to people. I'm working on other endeavors right now, and I think I'm at the stage after being comfortable with, I don't want, if someone, I have decided it will be more sustainable and just faster to handle doing things all on my own, because there's things I know how to do on my own. And then after all of that, I'll be able to collaborate and expand other endeavors in the collaboration way. But because I'm all in on completing the tasks which I can do on my own, I'm only going to be doing things I can do on my own for a while. So if, before I've accomplished what I seek to accomplish, someone says, hey, you want to collab? That used to be, 2-3 months ago, the only thing I really wanted was to collab. And that is something I really want to do still. I'm just doing it now focusedly only on like how I can do it on my own, which is all of the things I've talked about. Interactive fiction engine that I can craft live with an audience. This is the ultimate form of that sensation I had when I was a teenager. When I was crafting an interactive world with people, they would tell like what their character does or whatever, here's what the world does, and we're just kind of having fun together. That was really cool and one of the happiest times of my life. I'm not kidding. That was so fulfilling to me. All of this is a master culmination. I have been working and slaving away for years upon years, and a lot of that was emotional growth and work as well. You have to leave your unsupportive marriage to pull off extremely massive endeavors like this. First of all, because massive endeavors like this take a lot of your time, but they take a lot of emotional energy, which is hard to address and put towards personal projects when you have a relationship that also involves emotional energy, let alone an unsupportive relationship that takes an inordinate amount of energy, and an environment where it's not safe to express the sorts of things I expressed now. So being able to express all of these things quite plainly in quite a public format or form, although I don't even consider it public because there's like nobody watches these yet because no one really knows about them yet because I am not yet Phineas Former. Phineas Former is becoming. Videos have only ever been a small stage of it. Only ever. And all I've been doing publicly is the videos, because the videos is the only thing that's really been ready. So yeah, and yes, like the last video, I told you what I'll be doing with this channel. And then in today's video, I told you what I'm doing with Phineas Former and what I seek to do this weekend or within the next 5 days. If I'm not able to fulfill all of these, that's okay. I'm prepared for failure. I'm very good at failure. I'm excellent with dealing with failure. And let's face it, this is all a lot to do. And what I'm doing instead of all of this is occasionally still going to get laid by the gentleman typically. Or if not, then other, because keeping the human vessel happy is very important. So I'm doing that. I have my human job I'm still going to. Still playing games on occasion because it's fun having sex, but you still need to be able to take care of yourself and have personal time. So I'm balancing everything as well as I can. Other relationships, like just friends, have fallen off to the wayside because it's more valuable to get laid and have personal time to recharge than it is to also spend casual time with a friend. Unfortunately, you just have to, when you have limited time, maximize your gains, and that's how I've been able to achieve in the past 2 months, especially what I have achieved. I regret none of it, but I am very prepared for things to go wrong in some capacity, maybe even every capacity, because I am a little bit astonished at my decision that I took 2 hours ago. There was an intellectual plan where I could have taken out 6 birds with 1 stone. Just a massive throw, and I win. People recharge me, so I'm recharged by going to the bar. I like alcohol, and I would have had a drink or two, so that's fun. I would have worked on programming, which I not only need to do, but I love doing, and I just like doing it at a bar, probably because I'm inspired when I'm at bars, because I love people. And I would have felt in tune with my past self by watching a football game of the team BYU, which I used to watch a lot with my father. And once I moved away, it meant so much to still be able to go to those games with my dad that I specifically fly home at least once a year to go to a football game. And we stack other activities around it. It's a visit home, and you like those. But I legitimately go to one of those football games in person every year because that's just what's important to me. So while I'm fulfilling all of these other objectives, I'm also getting in touch with my past self, which I normally don't like doing. But the more I do it lately, it's charting out where I've been. That illustrates where I'm at. You can map the trajectory, and it helps inform you of where you might go. Examining your past, or at least being open to it, is beneficial. For the longest time, I avoided that doggedly because for the longest time, I did not like who I was, because for the longest time, I did not like who I am, even as recently as a week ago. A week ago, I was still making videos with white hair and a pink collar, and I was trying to be someone. I was trying to make the style of videos that I ultimately want to make. A week ago, less than a week ago, it happened over Christmas. And I'll tell you a little bit about that too. We've had so much technical stuff in this video. Let's get personal for a little bit. That sounds like a better place to end off of, and I feel ourselves getting towards the end of whatever this is. Let's get a little personal. Because while I was visiting home on Christmas, the juxtaposition of being at mom and dad's in my childhood home and doing Christmas. I have two brothers who have special needs, which is now something that you know. So Christmases never really stopped being the kind of Christmases that you see in movies and TV. My parents are still together, which I didn't realize is atypical. Most people don't have that. And aside from two brothers who have special needs, it's still just a nuclear family. It is a nuclear family. And most people don't get the Christmases I had. The types of Christmases you see in movies and TV shows. I had those. And not in a dysfunctional way. We never had a racist uncle. No one got drunk up until me and my sister started to get drunk now and then because life happened and we were unhappy, and I still am sometimes, and I did drink a little bit. My friend Evan Williams helped me out tremendously. Not too much, but a good amount. And as I've come more online and been more activated, as I am now post-divorce and starting to actually realize all of my great big schemes, a la putting into the field the two distinct creative disciplines which do not yet exist that I have built, mainly. And I've become more in tune with my past self by examining things I used to believe, things I used to enjoy, and how I can bring those into my present day life, a la being Phineas Former. You have to have a certain sense of deep stupidity to do this. This is not normal. Hip Trucker, what are you doing? Hip Trucker, sway with me. Oh, I'm a little decalibrated right now. You're not supposed to say those sorts of things. I think this one's a little higher. I must have bumped it at some point. You're not supposed to say those things. Look. This is dumb. You're not supposed to do this. In the real world, you're supposed to feel stupid. When you do what I just did, people feel dumb. I feel dumb. When I just did that, that was so stupid. That was so dumb. Quickly, let me distract you by standing in front of the chow. That was so dumb. I actually hate what I just did. I feel, no one look at me. No one look at me. And I choose to believe, actually, that the operational basis of this channel has failed me and that no one is here anymore. because no one wants to watch a video that's not clickable, and no one clicked on this. And this one is so long. This one is such a long video. Guys, are you kidding me with how long this video is? And no one wanted to watch it all the way. And I got so technical, and people were like, wow, this stream is dumb. Let me go ahead and destroy it like his ex-wife would. Yeah, I did have an ex-wife, by the way. Not an ex-husband. And I don't know if you would imagine from me that I was married to someone of the opposite gender, because typically that's not something that would happen for a thriving young... I don't know if it's obvious that I'm a bottom, but it probably should be by now. So now that's something that you know too. And you could think to yourself, let's crush his dreams. You can't actually, my dreams are indefatigable. What am I talking about right now? I just got a little flustered by what I did, and I'm so ashamed of all of it. I can look at it, I can feel it in the viewfinder. It's part of me now. It's part of you now. And I'm so sorry. Oh no. And it takes a very stupid type of person to do that and to leave it in. And to respond by getting so flustered that he just said whatever he just barely said. This video is now off the rails. It already was off the rails, and it's already super duper long. It feels long. Maybe it's a normal length for what these videos are. It just feels like a really long one, and it doesn't get any better when I do shit like that. Fuck. Dang it. I don't even like when I swear very much in these videos, but I haven't even sworn enough based on what you just saw. A stupid person does that. Let's just don't argue. It's my channel, and I'm right on this channel. And that was stupid. Oh my god. And that's the sort of carefree thing you might do if you're a child. A child probably doesn't give a flying... Farfetch. If he looks that stupid. Child probably doesn't care. Far-fetched. It totally has a D at the end. A child would have known that. Dang it. But the principle applies. Are you kidding me? Whether I got the Pokemon wrong or not, the principle applies. Fearow. Flareon. There, I got two others. I like doing threes when I'm talking about language. Anything to distract me and you from the rest of this video. Are you kidding me? Children do not care. I have spent so much time this year with this YouTube channel experience, my other channel typically, all of this. I spent $100 and I gave him a $20 tip to make a master crafted version of this. I think he did a fantastic job. And after I fixed it, it's like, look, I'm a little bit more fur textured than I have been because I messed up earlier. So any other video you've seen with me in white hair, I messed up. And so now I'm back to the original version. This is great. I've gone to so many lengths. I have spent thousands of dollars investing in this VR experience for me to practice getting in tune with my childlike self, because what I'm doing is fundamentally extremely weird. A child wouldn't care. I've been learning what that looks like, because I have been drawn to this for a long time. I just like being a virtual kitty cat. I like looking around in VR. I'm not in my living room. I'm in the garden of Sonic 2. And probably the only thing I would want to do if I had viewer, like filmed before a live studio audience, and I had people hanging out in the world with me. Because if you're in this world, you can click on a Chow and you become that Chow. And I would absolutely have viewers walk around so long as the rule is you guys have to be Chows. I would have 1 to 20 Chows running around, hanging out over there, hanging around behind me, and I've tried it out. You can make fun little expressions and be a Chow, and I think you could dance like that. You could do whatever, and I think you could put on hats. And I would be okay with that. And it would just be chows dorking around. And if they were being too annoying, I'd be like, hey, chows, can you fuck off for a little bit? I'm being serious. And then some of them would fuck off, but then some of them would freak. They would fetch off. And one of them would probably be they put on a super serious chow, and then I would laugh and react funny about that. And then the other chows would be like, oh wow, he likes when they're serious. So then everyone puts on a serious chow and stands behind and just super serious watches when I said there's a serious moment, and then we're all playing together, and that sounds like so much fun. But I'm still in charge because it's very important that I'm in charge, which is why doing my chats live the way that I've described feels so good, because I would be ultimately in charge. I like that. A key element to all of this is finding that childlike sense of wonder and following along with whimsy, which is one of the only things I've ever talked about on this channel for the duration of this channel. I've probably brought up whimsy, maybe if not in the first video I ever made, in the first 5. I talk about it every 2 videos at least. I talk about whimsy all the time. Because a child is not overthinking. A child just starts doing the horrible dance you saw me do 5 to 10 to 15 minutes ago. Time means nothing. I talk too much. And the world happened to me when I was about 19. Because I grew up in a religious household. So there was the whole... Got a glitch. Don't like glitch. There was a whole religious suppression, and especially with having 2 brothers with special needs, I did not want to be a problem, and sexuality in a religious environment is a problem. And how I came out to my dad was, hey, and because my sister broke loose, she's older than I am, so she got a tattoo before I did. She started drinking before I did, and she like laid down groundwork for me to come through with a bulldozer and pave a road. I was a little rapscallion. My sister broke free first, so that's probably disappointing for my father, who's religious, that sister is starting to break the rules. And how I actually came out to my dad is I said, so hey, Dad, you know how all of your other children have disappointed you? I was 19. I had just fallen deeply in love with the first boy, my first boyfriend, and I had never acknowledged I was gay before. And I was like, I have to rethink a few things. Turned my life upside down. My psyche to this day maybe has not recovered yet, because that was hard to go through. My closest friends they went on religious missions at the time. So, right when I was coming to terms with sexuality and my life was all upside down, I was alone because my primary support group, the people I would have trusted and we would have grown together through that experience, were all gone. And I had to figure that out on my own or with the help of unsavory people, because it was shortly after that I started discovering party houses and being an alcoholic. And during that time period, I moved in with my boyfriend for 5 months, and the lease was 6 months big. So I paid for the last month, but moved back home because I was an alcoholic. And our third roommate probably knows more about me to this day than I do, because I only ever got drunk on peppermint schnapps, because that's the only alcohol that our Vector would purchase. I was like, I don't know anything about alcohol, just get us something. And she loved peppermint schnapps. So she just bought schnapps for us. So I would just drink peppermint schnapps, watch Friends, and cry. That was my life for a few months. And I don't remember those few months because I was a natural born alcoholic, and that on and off never stopped for several years. And now that's something you know about me too. Goodness gracious. This video is all over the place. This channel? Hoo boy. So I wasn't doing very well. And that's how I came out to my dad. That's a shameful way to deal with who you are. You know how your other kids have also disappointed you? Let's give another one onto the pile. And then I didn't go back home for about 2 weeks. I stayed with a friend. And my dad at that point was a little bit more cool than I recognized him as, and it was my own shame that held me out. My dad did not kick me out. I kicked myself out because I was so ashamed. And at that point, I think I was 19. I might have been 20. I was 19. Yeah. That's where I came from. It was prior to that while I was still being pretty repressed, I repressed myself because I grew up in a religious household, along with 2 brothers who have special needs, and I compensated by being a quiet personality. And my sister was a loud personality because she has to compete for attention in a household that has so much going on. I became a quiet personality. But even within all of this, I became, for probably the first time in my life, deeply satisfied when I was writing that interactive fiction. All of my creative juice was fulfilled. I was intellectually thinking about all sorts of moving pieces. None of that left room for being sad or alone or anything, because I was just completely absorbed and I loved every minute of it. When I was 19 and life started to happen, oh, good God, life never stopped happening. And I started dating other people who were also the wrong people, and some deeply unfortunate occurrences took place. I was not in a very good space when I married the wrong person and was in that relationship for 8 years. I've been an alcoholic on or off. At my peak, I was 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Uh, yeah. Got a reckless driving ticket once because I went into the gore line, which is like when you're going to merge off the freeway. I cut into that zone and sped up, didn't quite make it, so I was driving not anywhere to cut off someone who was going too slow for me. Turns out it was a cop. Oops. Somehow, because I was late to work and I was a kid, somehow they got that dropped down to a careless, which is much better on your record. It doesn't last as long. If I was a reckless driver, I think you can't be a delivery driver for pizza or something. It's a huge problem. And careless is much less of a problem. I don't know how I got so lucky with that. But that's very stupid. I was very stupid for a very long time. Now, during the pursuant decade plus of being deeply unhappy in various ways, and eventually trying to learn how to satisfy myself, how to grow as a person, and how to deal with all of these stressors and become okay, I had this theory, and something I remembered was how deeply satisfied I was when I was a teenager writing those interactive stories with people. That got me through a lot because how could I perhaps recreate that? Because I know that joy exists. It's not gone forever. I still love communication. I still love people. I still love writing stories. All the pieces are there. What am I missing? What's the platform I could use? How can we get back to that? Because that was deeply satisfying. That was happy. That was the most happy. That was, I think, second, possibly third. I can't remember what the second would be. If it was third. Maybe it's happened. But that some of the happiest I've been in my entire life was then. could I not recreate that? The second would probably be the time that actually, I do remember a close friend invited me to stay with them in Seattle for a little bit. And it was the first time I had ever spent extended amount of times in the city. And the amount of time I just spent looking out of the window, that was a deeply fulfilling time. So, point being though, I loved that teenage experience. For many years, I've been seeking to recreate that. And I did. Oh, mainly. I'm still putting together this one a little bit. I have to figure out focus widgets, but I know how. They work on their own sometimes, but in order to make it the absolute maximum writing flow that I insist upon, I have to manually say every widget knows which one is the next one. So manually each one becomes, and you can tab backwards. Like I need really specific control over that. I think I know how to implement that. That's the only problem. And over here, I have to attach the chatbot. I did it. I know the missing pieces. I know I have the ability to do that. I can do that. And one of the missing pieces was I cannot only recreate the mechanics of that teenage delight. The first time I was truly happy and satisfied and activated and content in this world, I was not able to recreate that. It would not have worked without the emotional space that a child has. Because I was a child. The world had not yet occurred. I had not yet come out to my father by saying, you know how all your other kids have disappointed you? That was someone who was reasonably carefree. Yeah, he was still struggling with sexuality and he didn't realize it, but that's besides the point. Because the world hadn't happened yet. I was a kid. I was still in high school, possibly junior high. Probably high school. But I loved it so much. So to get back to that space, and not to get back to it, to bring it into the present, which is why I've gone to all of the links that I have. If I was trying to recreate the past, I would have chosen forms which did not include teaching myself programming, and namely, I had to uncover all of the lost emotional elements which I had since blocked off or found other ways to cope with because a lot of life has occurred. So before any of my magnificent systems, which I have described at length in this video, could be implemented and employed and deployed to what I suspect to be tremendous effect, because I will be the one-stop shop for the first thing in the world. Not many things in this world are the first. I am the first. I'm the only one. And I did it, mainly. So I brought the mechanic system of the past to the present day at great lengths. But none of it would have been useful to me without being emotionally accessible to myself. Because if I can't be someone who has carefree, childlike wonder and whimsy, if not under my control, then I can work in tandem with it to the point where if it feels correct in a given moment to do the dance, then I dance. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is I look stupid, I look like a doofus. People who are still here, which is one, me, maybe. Usually I watch all of these. I don't know if I will watch this one. This one's going to be hard to watch again because it was hard to say. So maybe like I have no idea. No idea at all. But no matter who is here, no matter where I go, no matter where I am, whoever is there for me when I get there, I have to be all of the way, here we go, energetic. No more, what should I write? And is this going to work? It's like, nope, it works because I built it so that it would work and I tested it so it works. And on stream, I'm doing this live, so I can't be pausing a whole bunch. It's go time. And when it's go time, you have to follow your emotional state and go for it. And if something stupid is happening or something you don't agree with, you go for it and you get through on the other side and you tell an excellent story which has conflict. Because when you're conflicted about the direction the story is going, that comes through in your writing. It comes through in the video that you make. It gives the very specific emotional message that you wanted to convey. I needed to be able to be that emotionally free and bold in order to use the system that I've been working on for years. So also for years, I have been learning more about being emotionally accessible to myself. Where are the emotional blocks? How much did my 8-year divorce mess me up? And that was the easiest part not easiest, but like that was not a problem. There's been other pieces of life. Like it's taken a while. I've dealt with death. We'll just say that. And it's not been great. Dancing Chow, guide me. And that was work I had to do to achieve what I seek to achieve, which I would like to achieve within this week. For many reasons. This is an opportune week. My roommate's still gone. But I have never bought into my own endeavors as much as I have bought into this. And I think it might be why some of my endeavors have failed. All of them have failed. Because like it took me so long to buy a VR headset because I said, well, you're not going to do anything with it. You have one that works. And it's like the one I had that works is the first one, basically. It technically worked, but I had to size text up to maximum in order to read it. And now it's just much better. I needed a better headset. And then I bought a better headset. And then I've bought all the trackers. And every step I hesitated and I panicked because I don't follow through all of the time, so I don't buy into myself all of the time, but I think that's why I don't follow through is because I never give myself the tools to succeed my dreams. The past 2 months, I've been all in on me, what I have going on, what I'm up to, and I've made some decisions. I was able to cut back my hours at work, and I've gone through enough of my savings by now. And I think, depending on how the holiday paycheck goes through, I should clear rent. It might be a week late. And I will absolutely just say, because I had no vacation time for the holidays, and I'll just say to my roommate, it's like, oh, they didn't put my vacation time in the right way, so rent's going to be like a week late. I'm so sorry. And he's going to be like, oh, wow, that was shitty for your employer. And it's like, no, actually, it was shitty for me because I could have been working full time and I've reduced my hours. I could have even been working one additional day a week and still not be full time. I've cut my hours back for this endeavor to buy in all of the way. And if this doesn't work, I'm on a timeline that I gave myself. If this doesn't yield something by this week, by the end of this year, because I gave myself the year, it was more than 2 months of buying in all of the way. So if this week doesn't yield something that I can bring to myself and say, look, it yielded something. Let's talk about that. And then talk about it to myself at deep length. Because I'm going to have to decide at the end of this year, do we go forward or do we call it? We gave it our best shot. We have to pick up more hours at work. This can go back to being just a hobby. Because I'm still just a human who still just has human abilities. And I do seek to change the world. I am going to. I have. I've built it, mainly. And as I said in the previous video, this is the most spiritually satisfying work I have ever done. I've been happy before, once or twice in my life, deeply happy, and one of them I have sought to bring into the present day, as I've been talking about. But never have I felt, maybe once, so spiritually fulfilled. And it's 10 minutes away, and people enjoy it, and people haven't even seen what's on the way. I might be the first person who's doing this. Furry VTubing did not need this. I gave it this. I think I'm the first on this level. I think. And this is the small part. The rest is on the way. And at the end of this year, I have to make the call and conference with myself. What are we doing with this? As we've pursued our dreams and passions, found out that it works, that it's the most spiritually fulfilling I've ever felt in my life. Is that a hobby or is that a life calling? Because financially, it's irresponsible for me to continue at the rate I have. I don't know what to do with that. I'm not. And I'm not even especially considering any of that. None of the implications to it, none of what it could mean, because that would be not buying into it all of the way. Because Phineas Former is here. As of less than a week ago, it took place. It's go time. And I still want to tell that story before we close out the video. Goodness, what an experience this video is. Thanks for being here. And it's been getting challenging maintaining faith that it's going to work out, because typically they don't. And I'm prepared for failure. Easy money, prepared. Which looks like transferring stores, because when I moved further away from my primary workplace. So I need the time of traveling less far. If they can guarantee a full 40 position, picking up hours, recovering my financial situation, this comes back to being a hobby, and that'll be easier because I will have programmed the things I needed to program. And I will have become comfortable VTubing, so I can make my videos more seamlessly, and I can make my fun stories more seamlessly, and I'll be able to stream. Streaming is still going to be really hard for me for a while. That one's just still new enough to me. That's going to be a problem. And That'll take longer to get running if I'm also going back to working full time. And there's so many things to consider about that uncertain future. And because I overthink things once or twice in my life, I want to overthink that. So as time approaches, there's part of me that feels worse about taking time for myself. I feel worse about making a video like this on the channel, which is specifically designed for the fewest amount of people to view it, when I could have spent this 2.5 hours going to the bar, knocking out 6 birds with 1 stone, finishing programming, and working towards that good future. I have chosen to follow the whimsy I have not even actively been feeling. We have to recall that I intellectually decided to ignore what intellectually made sense and follow through on what the sense of whimsy might have been saying if I was in tune with it. My sense of whimsy is called for and carried out by a sense of childlike wonder, because a child will feel an impulse, like my shitty dance, and move forward and engage with it anyway, because they're not overthinking, they're just kind of going for it, living their best little life. And I have spent tremendous time and energy learning what it looks like to bring that into the system, all of this, as an adult. To access that sense of whimsy, follow through with it, and buy into it completely. A lot has gone into this. And I think to close out the video, please God, to close out this video, I would like to finish the story I briefly started, which is Christmas time, and how I came into black hair and white collar, which is a sign that it's time to go. It's launched. It's happening. It's happened already. That now like you guys are seeing the first of it. If you're watching this right now, you are the first, because this is the first. This is starting. Unless nothing happens by the end of this week, which I'm prepared for, because I'm prepared for failure, which looks like tabling some of what I've done. It's not so long, it's just farewell, but it's still just going to be a hobby, and I'll just still be chipping away at it for as long as I can. And creative endeavors, like I'm ready to fail. We're good. Totally good. I've dealt with failure. I know how to recover from it. I know how to lie to my roommate to buy myself an extra week of time to get the rent together. We're good. Not a big deal. We're good. I'll just step back a little. Totally not a big deal. I'm ready to fail. So that's fine. Anyway, what brought about this finality of form for now is over Christmas break, I examined through this childlike lens what Christmas days look like and how they're always the same, because my brothers still have special needs, so they've always still had those kinds of Christmases because they're still kind of kids and you still kind of want that sense of wonder. And I'm pretty sure they're old enough to know that my parents are secretly Santa, but I think they're still young enough to not care, you know? And it's totally fine. And I decided to watch it and see what I felt. And not really get drunk. I drank on Christmas Eve more, And that was just towards the end of it because there were tons of cousins over. There was so much going on. I'd been cooking all day, and at the end, everyone loved it, but then it was just a lot to handle. And the hard part about any of it was juxtaposing the Christmases that I've always had growing up and the ones which still exist to the sense of spirit I have felt and been feeling with my video craft and with my small audience and with the small amount of comments where people have said, I like your video. Your video has helped me. I got some good thoughts about it. I had to pause your video and take notes because I like what you've said and I hadn't thought of things that way. And I'm doing good on small scales. I have changed the world. I've changed my world. But I have changed the individual world of people who have liked my videos. I've received a few comments that people feel less alone when they've watched the videos because I'm the first person who has spoken the words that they feel in their heart. That's happened. I have changed the world already. I just seek to continue doing that in bigger ways, but I can rest easy knowing that I've achieved my dream. That's pretty cool. And I've had that knowledge for a while. Over Christmas, I saw everything. Where I came from, the trajectory where I'm at, and the actions I'm going to take in the near immediate future. And I uncovered the impetus behind some of that, which is that I had a childhood, and I was able to be so carefree as a child to have that moment of ultimate happiness I've been talking about for the entire video. And other people do not have that kind of family dynamic. Other people have not had the type of Christmases that you see in movies and TV, let alone still having those Christmases. My family is over 30 years strong in those types of Christmases. Every year, my dad is a set of twins, so his twin brother and all of the cousins all come over every Christmas Eve, and there's a big party. And usually what happened growing up is all of the girls would be watching Christmas movies upstairs with blankets all over the floor and having just a party. And all of the boys would be downstairs on all of the computers playing Command and Conquer. And that tradition stopped. That tradition never really stopped, so much as Flaming Crater. Like, you've never seen anything torched into so much flame and destruction as the time that me and my two cousins were playing together on a 3-person free-for-all map. And we accidentally teamed up on our older cousin, on his brother and my cousin. And I had my little army, and I go like, oh, I'm going to go attack my cousin, ha 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 ha. And he's got nothing. Nothing. No defenses, no units. I just walking in. Power plant? I don't think so. I kill it. You build units here? I don't think so. You kill that. Where is he? Where's my cousin? As it turns out, at that exact moment, his brother had taken all of his army and thrown it at his brother, my cousin. So my cousin, his brother, takes his whole army and throws it over there because he's fighting a full-scale war. Seconds pass. I show up. Power plant? That's a fun idea. Delete it. I have my army. Where's my cousin? He got pissed. Pissed. You have never seen no racist uncle can not he wasn't being racist, but like nothing has ever destroyed a vibe, torched a tradition. We have never the former family has never played Command and Conquer since because of the blood that was shed that day, and there was no blood. He was fine. Actually, I still don't know if he's ever forgiven us. But no amount of work, so I guess a while ago, I think it was SEAL Team 6 or something. This is extreme, so bear with me. When I guess like SEAL Team 6, I think is what it was, like took down Barack Obama, Saddam Hussein, I think. Why do I not remember this? And it was this huge operation, and it's like freedom has won, and it's like, did it really? Yeah, that was actually inspired by what me and my cousin achieved on that day. It just 100%. Oops. So yeah, we don't do that anymore. But that was our Christmas Eve tradition, and they always still come over on Christmas Eves. We play card games now, which is much less bloodshed. And it's great time, great vibe, right? Always has been. And other people have not, maybe will never have those types of Christmases. I grew up in a very special household, very special circumstances, to have the sense of spirit that I do, to even have the completely full moment of happiness that I've since brought into the present day, using very adult mechanics that I had to teach myself. To even have that, you need to have an advanced childhood, emotionally safe, which I had, and still do. Understanding that other people have not had that upbringing, that they've never had the type of Christmas I have permanently had as a child, and some people like what I've done. Some people watch my videos and think, I like this. Already the world is a better place because I like making these. So I'm happy, someone else is happy, positive sum game. But some people get a lot out of my videos. Some people are, I hadn't thought of it that way, and that recontextualizes some of what I've experienced. And then I went on to go on the most recent one. Someone, I said this yesterday, or last video, I'm saying it again. I think I said it last video. I think they watched the video I made about being your own boyfriend, and that absorbed into them to some extent. And later, without realizing what they were doing, they took themselves out to a restaurant, had a few beers, and had a very lovely time. And that behavior was informed by a video that I made. They made an individual decision, had a lovely time, because I made a video. Maybe not because. I believe that people receive signs when they're ready to receive signs. So maybe it would be someone else's video that they found. Except that the videos I make don't exist. That's why I'm making them. So multiple people like what I do. I like what I do. Multiple people, most people, have never had the Christmases I've had. If I'm able to bring the spirit of Christmas to what I do, could it be that people who do not have family, who have never had those types of Christmases, people who are alone, and I feel alone, I'm the one and only baby, I'm okay with that. That's cool, because I learned by now childlike wonder. I'll say it plainly, I'll say it again. to be able to have fun, follow impulses, even if you feel stupid, being a furry VTuber kitty cat, go for it. And if I'm able to carry along the emotional message behind the spirit of Christmas and what it feels like to be able to go and spend time with your family and to not be alone, or if you do feel conflicted, kind of what that confliction looks like and how to resolve it so then you can still be content in your own ways, and to talk through that honest experience that a lot of people never have had, the same types of people who like my videos which never really have existed before me. And as I'm sitting over my Christmas break, within the past week, I juxtaposed everything I've come to know, my beliefs, my knowledge, all of it, and what the actions are I'm going to be taking with the next week. I can't say where I'm headed. That's results-based worth. I don't subscribe to that. So maybe I fail and I'm ready to fail, and maybe nothing happens and I'm ready for that too, even though that'll be a big bummer. I'll be fine. But I know what I'm going to do, because I know what I believe. And if it works, that's a whole bunch of people who typically feel alone, who might not feel as alone anymore, because I'm around. Videos like this, videos like my other channel, streams like my streams, which are very engaging, casually for me, writing interactive fiction, which is engaging and does not even exist yet, with a sense of emotionality and spirit that I've cultivated over the past decade as I've worked through challenging life experiences to understand how I've worked through them, how I can work through them, how to handle strong emotions, and how to actively choose to engage in childlike whimsy. I've learned how to do this with my YouTube channels, which is the first time in my life I've really bought into my endeavors. The first time I have spent thousands of dollars on my belief. Money which I saved up, but money that could have gone to other things. Because to me, it's not a toy. I don't play in VR. I don't hang out with people. The last time I was at a social event in VR, I had all my full body tracking, my eye tracking, and I only have like 10 friends, and I don't even hang out with any of them. I never really have. And someone said like, what it was is I asked people how I became a trusted user when I'm still just a user. And they're like, oh, you just play VR, chat, and then when you have a lot more friends, then you get that. And someone's like, oh, and I see when I started too, I got the full body tracking, but you'll get there. And the implication there was that I wanted to be part of VR chat, so I got all of this stuff to be in VR chat. And I got all the stuff to film, so I could learn how to express that childlike wonder, which I had spent years learning how to be in tune with, so I could ultimately reach this point and make content which is emotionally vulnerable because some people like it. I'm doing it. It started. And over Christmas, realizing I'm in the position to perform this work, and I have the days off to do it, and I'm hanging out with my family instead. Not to diminish family vibes, but I've had 32 years of family. 32 really great Christmases that you see on movies and TV. Mom and Dad, I love you dearly, but I don't need another one. And I chose another one so I could listen. And everything I felt, everything I heard, told me that now is the time. It borderline felt like a mistake to go hang out with my family for Christmas, although I knew it was necessary. And I'm glad that I did. But I needed to be here, and I do need to be here. Because the work that I'm doing has selfish elements. I want to be happy. I want to be unalone. Fun fact is I do not feel alone because I've got friends and family, and I know how to be alone and be content. We're good. I know how to deal with failure. Not a big deal. We're good. If I don't have anyone to have sex with, I've got silicone sculptures. Not a big deal. To some people, it is a big deal. So I don't need to perform all of this magnificent work for me. So I'm puffed up and be like, oh, Phineas Former. Wow, he's the one and only. And that's true. I am the one and only. Can't get this anywhere else, baby. It's all me. Yeah, still working. Audio good? Good. It's not for me. Because I don't need this. I like this. I love this. I love doing this. It's spiritually fulfilling. Are you kidding me? This is great. This is the best thing. So far. And there's more best things on the way very soon. I have built them. Mainly. And I've been cowardly in the past. And I've been afraid in the past. It's not easy to learn how to be emotionally vulnerable in front of a virtual camera and to post those things. That's just a skill set. And it took a while to learn. And I've been nervous before in some of my videos. I've been questionable because I've been learning a bunch about styles of content and when do I upload something. There's been so much I've learned with all of this video work, and I have been cowardly through some of it. I have lately experienced not being a coward, and I've made videos where I've gone to a social circumstance that was going to be scary, and then it turned out to be fine. I've uploaded videos that I thought, oh, that's not a main channel video, and then I uploaded anyway because I'm not a coward anymore. I've filmed in front of my roommate several times, which I used to never be able to do because I was a coward before, and then I realized that's just something that happens now. So we do that now, not a big deal. And now is the time. For better or worse, for whatever happens in the next week. And I'm working on dropping expectations from my vocabulary. Because I've always struggled with that. I was talking with Mom over the past week. What the difference is between being excited about something, what the thing was, this video is going to close out soon. I praise Jesus if he lets this close soon. I'm ready to be done. It's almost done, I think. Because my favorite football team is BYU, as we've talked about a few times in this very video. And I was in charge of making the chocolate pies. I was in charge of a lot over Christmas dinner. Mom got sick, and so it's like, well, I will do it. And I've done it plenty of times before, so it turned out fine. But I made chocolate pies. And you always put marshmallows or chocolate chips on top of the chocolate pies, the chocolate cream pies. That use like Jell-O packets of chocolate pudding. They're so good. That was my job. And I did marshmallows on one and chocolate chips on the other. And then on one, because there were three, I did chocolate chips and marshmallows, but I said it was a BYU pie. And the thing with BYU is you have a big Y that's white, so it's a marshmallow Y. And I thought, like, hopefully they understand that's BYU because I'm not an artist, so hopefully it looked like the BYU Y. But then in chocolate chips, I put a B and a U. So it was a BYU pie. We've never done a BYU pie, and our whole family goes to the football games, but we're not the type of people who make BYU pies. We're not that deep into it. So it was the first BYU pie we've ever had, and I just thought it'd be a cute thing to do. I told Mom that I was excited about my cool pie, because I liked that chocolate pie. I thought that was a cool pie. BYU pie. We've never had a BYU pie. It's the first BYU chocolate cream pie. I was excited about my cool pie. And so I told Mom, I hope that they like my cool pie. But I was curious about it because it's my cool pie that I'm super excited about. And so I'm just thinking about my cool pie. So is that building up an expectation about the pie? Because if people don't even notice the BYU pie, and I don't even know if they noticed, it was the first pie that people ate, and I never heard anything about it, so I don't know. And it's fine. It doesn't matter. I know it was a cool pie. But if I'm thinking about something I'm excited about, am I automatically building up expectations, or am I just excited about my cool pie? And if no one thinks that my pie is cool, does that go against my expectations? And so I guess expectations comes from how people receive my pie. And if I just think the pie is cool, that's it. End of story. Cool pie. I like my cool pie. And I guess if I bring other people's reactions into it, that's when it gets messy. And that's when it becomes, I don't know, man, no one liked my pie, right? Like, that, no one has to like your pie. I just think, it was a really cool pie. It was such a cool pie. Ladies and gentlemen, it was such a cool pie. BYU chocolate pudding pie. It was so fun. I loved that pie. Best part of the whole Christmas trip, aside from finishing my interactive fiction thing. Which formed the basis for what I'm going to be doing. And it ran long enough that I was late to the showtime when I took my brothers to Sonic 3. So we went to the more faraway theater, which took just enough extra time that when I got home with my brothers, Dad was like, okay, well, I have to go to bed now. And I was like, well, that's a bummer, but I guess they were able to get lots of cleaning done, and it was helpful that the boys weren't around to distract them. So, it all went okay. So I was able to get that done. I forgot why I brought that up. It's been a very long video. Just talking about my pie for some reason. It was a really cool pie. And from there, I guess it goes to expectations. So with all of this endeavor, all of this video, this ginormo video, if you're still here, wowzers. I don't know if I'm still here. If I'm watching this, I don't know if I watched all of this. If I'm filming this, I think a part of me left long ago. I don't know if I'm even here. What? Where have I been? No amount of caffeine, no Rockstar, can explain what this was. I have no idea, my guys. But I've been excited about this week, this implementation, this black hair and white collar, this. Deeply excited about it for years. I've failed before and not accomplished my dreams before. That's fine. And this will just be a really big one. That's fine too. I've had really big dreams crushed. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. A bummer, but that's okay. Bummers take place. Not a big deal. And this can't, it's. But I've thought so much about this execution because I'm so excited about it. I genuinely do not know if I'm going to be bummed out if other people don't notice my cool BYU pie. Except it's the manifestation of all of my hopes and dreams for the past 5+ years. Because I'm super small, itty-bitty creator, no one really knows about it. I'm still shy about letting people know what I'm up to, so I don't even know if I'm really going to broadcast what I'm up to, because I haven't even used it yet. So if people show up and it doesn't work, that's going to be a bummer. If people show up and it does work, that's going to be a bummer too, because I haven't used it yet. So I'm going to have to be damned confident in my system, in my ability as a presenter. I've got no idea how any of it's going to work or if it's going to come together, although I do have confidence for no reason that it's going to come together. So I have no idea what's going to happen. And we bring it all the way back to where the video began. I actively made a decision which, to the best of my knowledge, went against my very tight timeline. I made a very long video designed not to be clickable, to upload to my channel with fewer subscribers, where I detail all of it, and sure, that does a lot to get me re-excited for the plan, and I re-laid everything out bare to me, so even I know what I have in motion. That's useful, and that's a little bit like making your plan measure twice, cut once. And this could be measuring twice. I've been measuring my plans and my abilities for years and years. And so talking all of it through before enacting it, that's a big deal. So it's valuable that I did this. And I didn't recognize I was doing that. I just followed through on the sense of whimsy I did not actively feel because I felt like intellectually that's what would be the decision I would make if I was feeling inspiration. So when I have such a tight timeline to accomplish my dreams during the arbitrary window I gave myself, because soon I have to make a decision, can I keep throwing everything I have into this ambition and this dream, or do I have to scale it back and accept the fact that I'm only a human and I have to work a full-time job to pay rent and pay bills and all of that and eat food at the same time? Even in this very tight schedule, I found the time to ignore the plans that make logical sense for following through and getting everything done. You have to structure your time the right way. I actively knew that there was a solid plan for getting some of this programming done, actively chose not to do any of it, and make a video instead that I was not distinctly impressed to make. I just felt like I would be impressed to make. When I follow whimsy, that's living life according to the childlike wonder I have cultivated over the past 5+ years. You might suppose I don't know what you suppose. It's a strange world I crafted for myself, full of strange ideas, marvelous ideas. At present, they're all still conceptual. I'm prepared for them to fail. Not a big deal. And here in the 11th hour, I chose to take time to satisfy the conditions of the inner child because I'm doing all of this ultimately to express what an adult child looks like, how to be an adult child, and how to preserve childlike wonder even when life is bad. And what the tools are I use for childlike wonder to persist, and the gymnastics I employ, everything that I do to be here. That's the most important work of my life. That's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm doing this week. Now you know that. And you, literally you, the guy or girl or unspecified, who's watching this video, who has watched this video, who is still watching this video, God bless you. You are the first person to know all of this. You're the only person, aside from me, because nobody asks me. And in the past, when I've tried telling people, it's been used against me. So you're the first to know all of it. And I've told you what I'm going to do before I've even done it. So I'm going to look super duper cool if I do achieve everything, and then it's like, oh, have you seen his video titled, when did I make this? The 28th. Have you seen his video, 12/28? January 28th? It's a game changer. I don't even know what people are going to say. It's probably not a game changer. But I'm going to look... anyway. Oh, that's results-based worth. That is putting expectation onto things. That is not very BYU pie of me. Cool pie, cool life ambitions and dreams, cool spiritual calling to this world. Cool. I think it's cool. And I'm going to change the world, even in small ways, by building the world's first way to interact with mass media in a powerful way and with my engine. So yeah, that's me. Thanks for being here. You're the first. So examine how you feel. That's it. You don't have to tell me. I'm fine. I'm doing my thing anyway. But you're here, and that means something. I don't know what that means. You figure out what that means based on all the things that I've said. Because it takes a particular type of person to stand confidently as a virtual cat inside a virtual reality. What happened? There's no way you died. You didn't warn me. And I have never had my headset crash like that before. So I have no idea exactly where I left off. That was scary, but I guess I'm still filming, so whatever. I am still filming, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, everything still seems good. But I was at the end of the video anyway. Oops. Thanks, Meta MedQuest Pro. It's been a very long session, so maybe it just overheated. Because the battery is still fine. So I don't know what that was. Anyway, that was such a good ending, too. I was like 2 minutes away from it. Walk out of frame. Drop that good furry microphone. Because I had said everything, man. But we power through. And basically, I don't know. It takes a quality of person to make what I've made. To make this video. For so long. And to lay bare every plan. And it takes a quality of person to watch it all. I don't know what that says about either of us. You're on your own on that one. But I'm curious if it means anything at all. And that's it. I'm all over the place. So thanks for watching. I'm going to go change the world. And probably there's one bar. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to do. Probably upload this video and then watch it. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so have a good day. Have the best day. Have a day of whimsy if you so choose and if you're able to and if you want to. I don't know how else to end this video, so I'm gonna wiggle and move my hips and like show off my trackers. I'm out of calibration, so it might look odd. And I'm gonna go. Look at the chow.